place. The way, for the past couple years, I've been implementing different processes and stuff. But the problem was that the economy wasn't necessarily strong enough to really be able to watch it develop correctly, the processes. And now that we got a lot more work, or just think the doors are starting to open, the processes are revealing that they're working, and they're easier to identify a glitch to fix. So it's
Hmm.
really exciting. If that makes any sense.
It does, but it raises so many questions, though.
Yeah, like what?
So if it's turning around, are you saying that before, I don't know, let's say 2 weeks ago, just for the sake of conversation, were things not good 2 weeks ago? The economy for you?
No, things were things were okay, and we were surviving, but we weren't thriving. We
Okay.
were
So,
we were we were making the bills. We were bringing an income in. We were bringing in a profit, but we weren't thriving. And now it just seems like everything's turning where we're starting to thrive. I mean, and really, really thrive. Uh, uh, it
what
just
would Wesley say? What would you say, Wes, that is the reason for this, in your opinion?
some of it I believe is divine intervention, but um, I think it's been my coaching that, like, and I always tried to coach where I'm approachable and things like that, and I try to direct the guy into being able to think on his own and make suggestions, not tell him, but make suggestions of the directions I would follow. And I let them fall on their face a month or two, and then, well, now I'm pushing the envelope. It's like, okay, your shit didn't work. Go my direction now, how I do things, and now they're seeing the light. So, and they're
Do you
making.
always do it like that?
What's that?
Do you always do it like that? And what I mean with the question is, when you want your team, right, to do something a certain way, do you always let them try their way, even though you know your way is the right one?
No, what I do is I give you a strong suggestion to do it like this, and this is why. But they are human beings, and they do have ideas. Like, for example, a lot of them felt like our prices were too high. So then they felt like we should lower our prices. And well,
Hmm.
with them lowering the prices, that's fine. But then the P&L doesn't show that they made any money. I said, so what did you prove? And I says, trust me, the people will pay the money. They will pay it. This is how I want you to bid. This is how you do it. And I did it. And sure enough, they started getting jobs with more money. And this is what I'm talking about. So they had to learn. They had to fall on their face first and see their way doesn't work, though I had strongly suggested it. And then when theirs fails, then I then say, do it my way. This is the way I want it done. But I always let them try to do it their way first. It helps them grow as people, but it also builds their confidence in me when my stuff works and theirs doesn't. If that makes any sense. Are you
It
there?
does, Wes. It's just no, I'm here. I was just thinking of the next question that I would like you to answer, um, which is when the so you knew in this scenario that their way, in this case, reducing the prices to get more conversions on the jobs that are bid, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that was their thesis. And you knew that that would not work
Right.
because at the end of the day, at the P&L, that would not translate. You allow them to do it. Go ahead, reduce the prices, bid those jobs, do work those jobs, right? And then I think maybe a month later, a couple of weeks later, that you can see, show how it gets to the P&L. You had the conversation like, hey, just do it my way. People will come. They will pay the money. Great. But you suffer that, like your company, your P&L for that month, for those jobs, you had a exposure where you were just sort of not earning much or earning much less than you
Exactly.
should have been. Okay. Now, would you recommend that to other people? Like, because you had to pay the price.
Yeah, I did, but you know what? I paid the price, but it's going to pay off in the long run. Now my people know. They understand. It's not that they were told and don't understand. Now they understand, and I don't have to babysit and hold their hand, and they can make these decisions because they know now. Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense. Yes, it
It
does.
was worth the loss of money to grow them as people and to grow them as future leaders for the company. So, yes, I thought it was worth the money to lose for a month or two. That's it. And then I had to step in.
All right. So what? So what do you do? What would you recommend for someone that doesn't have 2 months to lose money?
But then you
Let's just
just
say that you didn't. Go ahead.
I don't necessarily think you're in the right position to do what I did if that's the case. If you don't
There you
have the
go.
money, then
There you go.
so I would probably be still working in the field if I didn't have the money to make the decision to allow them to make the decisions. I would have to make the decisions because I just don't have the money to do it, and then I would demand it. Do it my way because I'm still in it. Does that make
Right.
sense?
It does. I'm trying to put it into so this approach that you used of, you know what, go ahead and try it, even though I know it's not going to pay off, just out of experience, out of just the simple knowledge that the price adjustment there is just, you're not going to be more efficient, therefore there's going to be less to go around. You can do that if you have enough cushion to withstand the month or two that you're going to have less money in the bank account. And you're doing that if you trust, when you trust, and you did, that they will learn from it and they are actually going to execute your plan. And they are, right? They have been now.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? I use this line with them when I reel them back in after their failures.
Mm-hmm.
I reel them back in. I'll say, "Do you know why that I picked this amount of money to charge per hour?" And they
Mm-hmm.
say, "No, why?" I say, "Because I did the numbers already. I already know. That's why. I did everything for you. I covered your ass. Just follow my lead." And they do. And now they are, and things seem to be more on the up and up. And we're thriving more. So good stuff. Everything that I've invested time and money in is now coming around and thriving, and it's just really exciting. I can't wait for the next year to start.
I love to hear that. This is
Yeah, I am
wonderful.
super excited. I've always feel this way around this time of year, but this year just
Do you
seems
really?
different. This year
Why would
just
that
seems
be?
different.
Like, I don't know. Do you always feel this way, Wes? That's wonderful for you.
Every time at this year is like next year is going to be a bang out year, but I really feel strongly this year because
Ah,
I saw the changes developing over the summer and fall and things coming into play correctly. So, yeah,
wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I
yeah,
am excited for you.
me too.
And that's on the operational side. You also have the one thing you don't talk enough about, which is the launch of the Econosaur franchise. So I know after the Brazilian trip, your goal was to travel, right, to tour the U.S. Uh, selling in Portuguese is feiras, but conventions, whatever it is, right, industry type of thing on the Econosaur. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, what they have, what I was going to really push, that's going to be my hard push for January or for the next year is selling those. And I gave myself a goal of how many I'm going to try to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And my goal is 10. And that's my goal is to try to do 10 a year. And those they have these expos, franchise expos all over the country at different times. Well, I'm going to be involved with that schedule, and then I will travel these expos and spend a day or two with the franchising company that franchised the company. They're going to also sell it, but I will work with them, being an owner on site, that people can pick the brain of the horse's mouth, and I'll be
Okay.
there. And that's all going to be happening in January, is where we're going to start scheduling and getting involved more with that. But right now, with budgets and Christmas coming up, it's just a little busy right now. I put it on the back burner temporarily for a little bit, you know.
You did? You kind of
Well, it's
paused it?
not it's not that it's on the back burner. I'm just saying that today is budgets. It's not franchise. You know, tomorrow I got to do Christmas cards. It's not franchise. I got to just get this stuff done, and and I'll address it when I
I
find
love it.
time.
No, I love it. I love it.
You know,
So so you actually do Christmas cards, Wes? I know you said it, so I'm just like listening.
this is what I do. I
Is that what
try
you
to
do?
give a bonus. I try to give a you want to call it a bonus? I try to give everyone a bonus at the end of the year, and I write each person a personal Christmas card, a personal letter to each one, and I try to hit on
Uh-huh.
things that pertain to our relationship, me and that guy, whoever he is. It could be the
Right.
apprentice who's just been here for 2 weeks. It doesn't matter. I'll write a personal card to him, as well as I'll write a personal card to one of my oldest employees and talk about something totally different. And they always try to be motivational and to let them know that
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate them. So, yeah, I write a Christmas card to each individual employee I have. And there's about like 60 of them I got to write.
60 of them.
Yeah.
No, I think it's amazing. Like
And then we put
it's
a check in the
and
card.
oh, so you do that every month, every year.
Yeah, and then I put a check in the card and I give them the card with the check in it. And that's their Christmas bonus, I guess. And I give it to them at the Christmas party. And then
When is
if
your
you
Christmas party this year?
next Wednesday, so I got a lot of cards to write real quick here. I
I
got
love
two
it.
Christmas parties. I got one on Wednesday and one on Friday next week. And I also am giving away 2 watches for people that have worked for me for 10 years. I give a watch, and um, I have it um, engraved, and I say, for 10 years of service, thank you very much, Building Waters. And I have it engraved on the watch, and I give them a watch.
I love it. Are you a watch guy? You didn't seem to be a watch guy,
I love
but
watches.
you just do that.
It's about fashion for me. I love watches. It's more about fashion than it is for practicality. Everyone's got their phone to look at the time. But I've always
No,
liked to
no, no,
wear.
no. I understand that. It's just when we did, for those that don't follow us and don't know us personally, whatever. But Wes and I just came back 2, 3 weeks ago from our first Brazilian trip investment exploration in Brazil, and I didn't. I noticed some fashion things that you did, like nice coat and different things that you had, right? But I did not notice watches, so that's why I was like, "You're not a watch guy. Maybe you are. You just decided not to bring it to Brazil."
Yeah,
Or I
right. I
didn't
didn't bring
notice. I
anything to
don't know.
Brazil because, well, I was a, you know, if everyone remembers correctly, uh, we invited someone else and they decided not to come because they thought the crime rate was too high. Well, their concern put me at an alert, so I kept my jewelry at home. Though
Which is
I
awesome.
went.
Which is
What's that?
understandable.
Yeah.
Which
So
is
and
totally
I mean,
understandable. That's why I didn't see it. Okay.
yeah, and I didn't know. I've never been to Brazil before. I didn't know what I was running into, so I just took a precaution, and I still was going to go and make the best of it, and just keep time by the sun.
So I like how we're going today a little bit on, of course, you said, like things that you were blessed with towards the end of the year, right? Everybody like, oh, it's December, and you operate in the service industry, and you're excited about it. You're about to write checks. Um, would you say that 2025 is going to be like a record year for you? What was the one thing that you're really proud of that you guys were able to accomplish at Building Waters and Econ of Sewer and the electrical division, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, yeah. Education. The problem that I have, Jay, is that a lot of times I want to give the perception that you can come here and grow a career, that you're not just a number at the bottom of the list. Well, when I grab someone from the field to bring them into management, they're field hands and have to be taught management. So my coaching has to be on educating them, teaching them to be a leader, teaching them how to make money, and teaching them processes and why we do these things because of this happens or that happens or whatever. Well, it was the education. They finally are getting it. They're finally understanding. I finally, uh, they're finally getting out of the field mindset and getting into managerial mindsets. And I also did also implement some carrots in there. Some like if you can hit your budget, I'll give you a X amount of dollars. If you go beyond your budget, I'll give you a percentage of all the profit from X amount of dollars. Things like that,
Mm-hmm.
which has motivated them to want to listen a little closer and make this stuff work. So that's been
Okay.
exciting. That's been exciting.
So the
You know,
carrot thing worked for all of it, or just Building Waters? Where'd you get the most of what you were looking for with this program? And by the way, I'm putting Building Waters on the screen. Look at that. Look how much stuff Wes has in that company.
I don't see. I see a blank screen.
Oh, it should be showing. Hold on.
It just says
It's
J.
gonna
It just
start.
has a J in it.
No, it shouldn't. Hold on. Here we go.
Let's see. Let's see what's going on
Here
here.
we go.
Oh yeah, those are all little
Oh,
commercials we've
zoom.
done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All
Those are
kinds
all.
of. So would you say that this is where most of your improvement came from? Like most of your drive was towards Building Waters this year?
Okay. I had previously had a divorce, and I was a little limited on funds because I had to equal things out with the ex-wife. So with that being said, I didn't have a lot of working capital or fluid capital to work with. Well, I still wanted to work on my business. I still wanted to grow. Well, what else can I do if I don't have money to grow? Well, I guess what I can do is I can work on my infrastructure. That can be somewhat cheap. It ended up not being cheap. It ended up still costing us money because we had enhanced our software, increased our processes, and coached and educated our managers. So all of that put together, which was actually cheaper than growing in another way, let's say by buying trucks and whatever, another building or whatever. We put the money in we put the minimum amount of money we had in our infrastructure, which I knew that once I recovered from this divorce, we would come out stronger and we would come out not as vulnerable and a little more solid. And that's what I did. And now it's showing its true colors. So, yeah, I'm really excited. And that's what I think that's what I took from 2025 and a little bit of 2024 was putting processes in place on a limited budget to strengthen our infrastructure and education. And these are all our commercials that we had on there that he showed. We have more commercials, but those were just some of them. So, you got any other questions, Jay? Hello? You on mute? Hello? Jay? Are you on mute? I don't know what happened to Jay. But anyways, I'm here. What else can we talk about here? Okay. Anyway, so there's some other things I'd like to talk about today. One of them is I like to talk about the human factor. The human factor in estimating work. We always got to consider the human factor in estimating work because we're all human beings and we're not all perfect. We had a situation this morning where I asked one of my department heads, how are things going in your department? What's the topic? Any problems? Any victories? What's happening? He said, I'm having a problem with one of my guys. I said, what's your problem? He says, man, I've just kind of realized this guy's starting to learn how to stroke it. And I said, what do you mean? He says, well, like he's finding it, like I know that a job got done, finished by, let's say, 10:30, 11 o'clock. And he had to go home by then because let's say we didn't have a full day's work. But then I see him checking out at noon at his house. So he sucked another hour out of us by milking the dog for an hour and then checking out at noon at his house, checking out at home instead of checking out on the job at 11 and saving us that hour or saving us that hour, which is house money, which is house profit. So, that's a human factor situation where someone's gonna try to get an extra hour out of you here and a little hour out of you there. A lot of times I've had people where they try to check into the job at home. And the way we determine that is we find that we track the GPS of the vehicle. If I see the guy checked in, but I check the GPS and I see he's at home, I know he checked in at home. And then he drives to the job and starts running up hours. Well, no one gets paid from their house and their travel in, especially when they're borrowing my truck with my gas, my insurance. You're running on your time. I'm giving you a vehicle to drive. So we got to consider the human factor. One that there you got to watch, but you got to watch their time of their check-in time, and you got to watch their checkout time. But what I'm talking about human factor is in when you're bidding. So you never bid a job for 3 or 4 hours. You got to bid it for 5, because the human factor is the guy may get it done at, let's say, in 4 hours, but then he's going to stroke it till noon because noon is another hour. Well, now really you lost an hour on that job because the house took in 3 hours on the job, but he charges for 5. So, with that being said, to cover the human factor, you gotta you gotta cover that, and your guys have to know. You have to be able to bid that way to to look ahead in the job and see if there's human factor involved that has to be considered. If that makes any sense. You never bid a job for 6 or 7 hours because that guy's going to stroke you till the end of the day and charge you 8. Now you can say, well, you can say, what are you laughing about?
Because the guy, you said the guy is gonna stroke you until the end of the day. I freaking love it.
Yeah, well,
I
that's what's
love
going to happen. So we have to consider the human factor. No, he's going to stroke us till the end of the day if he gets it done in 6. So we got to charge for 8. Now you think, well, why should the customer pay for that? Why shouldn't our managers be a little more in tune to their jobs where they can cover that? Because there's a lot of work to do, and you can't cover all that stuff. That is just incidental, real life human factor that you can't cover. A little job costs the same as a little jobs cost big money. You still got to set up the saw. You still got to set this up. You still got to set that up. Maybe you only got to make one cut. If you were going to be there for 8 hours, you still have to set up the saw. You may make 25 cuts, but you still got to set up everything. Everything. So little jobs cost more money. And then you got to break it down. And then you got to pack it up and leave. Well, if you're doing that 2 or 3 times on little jobs, that's all dead time you can't charge for, but you got to charge for it because it's a human factor. If the guy was there in 8 hours on a job, he's setting up in the morning and breaking down in the evening. But if he's jumping from job to job during the day, you want that time. That's where you got to cover the human factor. He's got to break down, set up, travel, all that other business. So that was one thing too that I had to get through my manager's head on considering the human factor when you bid the work. Yeah, you're a great tech in the field. You know what it takes to fix that furnace. You know what it takes to do that work. But did you consider the human factor that the guy's going to stroke you on the back end and on the front end? And like I said, it's a human factor, and you can't get away
But
from
some
it.
people, Wes, sorry for interrupting you, but one, my skeptical side would call that planning for inefficiencies, right? It's okay, consider the human factor in your price, but that human factor is somebody stroking someone. It's like you're just adding the price for the inefficiency in how you manage how your people manage their hours. Wouldn't you say so?
Well, I know what you're saying in there, but look at it from another factor. I use some different terms.
Sure.
Look at it from billable and non-billable hours.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to bill, if I'm going to bill a job, I'm going to bill. I know that it's going to cost me with human factor involved or not. It's going to cost me 5 hours to do a job that's going to take 4. It's going to. You got travel in there. You got breakdown in there. You got the guy coming back to get his other assignment of where he's going next, what the details are of that next assignment. Those are non-billable hours. But that guy is at the end of the day still going to charge me for 8. So I'd like to bill him for 8 hours. And you know what? And you can say, well, your inefficiencies, you're paying for someone else. I don't look at it that way. I look at it's the cost of doing business. It's what it takes for me to be able to accomplish that job for you and for it to be a win for me and a win for you. It's what it costs to do the job. We can say, well, let's get our people more efficient. How long is that going to take? And then if he doesn't conform, then is there another guy to take in his place and replace him? The pool of people to pick from hasn't been huge. So do I have someone to replace him? What do I do if I don't have someone to replace him? The guy is going to be inefficient, and the guy's going to be inefficient. I think it's the cost of doing business. What it takes. I mean, you're not. If that makes sense. Does that make sense to you?
Um, let's say this. A team, it's a saying in Brazil, right? And I think in the US, we say that too, right? If your team is winning, if you have a winning recipe, don't change it, right? If it's working for you. What I am saying is what we use this for, we use as a motivation to get a little bit better. So that what you do is you basically have an efficiency number, right? You're running at, in this case, 5 out of 8, right? 5/8 efficiency, right? 60-ish%, 70%. That's a very typical efficiency factor, right? So you, out of every 8 hours, you're running at 70%. Fine, you can charge your customer the 8 hours, but you do know you have those hours there that you are being inefficient. So in your coaching, in your 2025 was structure, maybe 2026 will be a little bit different. Where am I going to get the edge, right? So you can actually use the additional resources in the smartest possible way, right? So you've done the hardest work. I would think folks probably would agree if they're in the chat, um, of educating. Like they know there's there, right? They know that depending on how fast they do the work and how they plan, blah blah blah, it gets to the P&L. They understand the pricing factor, that doesn't fix anything, right? They understand that. Now, can you set them up? And that's a question. It's not a recommendation. It's not like you must do it, but can you set them up in a way that they actually understand that they're working at 70, and that Q1 the goal might be 75% or 76%, and so they work on those little things that will get that extra percentage, right? Because you say, hey, they stroking me for 3 hours. How can we only stroke for two? You know what I mean? Like, what can you put in there? What can be changed, scheduling, et cetera, et cetera. Very operational speech, but now you're talking about going that extra, 10%. And you know what a 10% efficiency gain would either give you, right, on your bottom line, or give you of ability to lower your price in a way that it is not hitting your P&L in a negative way, but you're also eating the competition, right? Because if a competitor like you has the same amount of trucks, but he can operate at 80% efficiency, guess what? That extra 10% on his price is going to be that conversion thing, right? So I said a bunch of words to say there is an extra layer, there's an next level there for you to go, my friend.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And the way we do it is when I tell these guys to bid, I tell the estimator bid it for 5 hours or 8 hours, not 4 hours or 7 hours or 6 hours and 3 hours.
Really?
And I
Why?
tell the man that he's only got 3 hours to do the job. So the customer and the customer knows, okay, we said it's going to cost $1,900 to do this job. And we took in consideration the human factor. But I don't tell the guy that's doing the job, he doesn't get the 5 hours and the 8 hours. He still gets the 3 to do the job in, or he still gets only the 6 to do the job in. And if we can make him more efficient that way, I can give discounts. But you have to understand too, before we even start the job, the customer has agreed on the price. I remember one time I had this one guy call me. I had 2 guys go on this job for this one guy. And I went and looked at the job prior. And the guy looked at it and we agreed on a price of $1,200. And he said, okay, yeah, let's do it. So I sent the guys over there to do the work. They did the work and they got it done and we made money and life was good. The guy called me up and says, I'm not paying. I said, well, why not? He said, because you had 2 guys here and one guy was just handing the other guy screwdrivers all day long. I said, well, that one guy was the apprentice and he's learning. He says, well, I'm not paying for it. I said, you were a shop ed teacher in a school, correct? And he goes, yeah. I says, I'm not holding you to it. But in the plumbing section of your shop teacher class, what do you think the average score was for your students? Were they doing 70%? Were they doing 80%? What was the pass fail rate? He said, we didn't offer plumbing. I said, exactly. So someone's got to teach these people, and you agreed on this price. I don't care if I sent 2 orangutans over to do that job for you. You agreed on a price of $1,200. So if you don't want to pay it, that's fine. I says, just, I'll have a nice day. He says, you're not going to call an attorney? You're not. I said, no, I'm not going to call an attorney. He says, what are you going to do? I says, I'm going to turn it over to I says, if I call an attorney, he's going to make me put on a lien on your property to pay the money. I said, and then I got to keep throwing money at that. I got to put money at it, to throw money at it, to put a lien on. And then every 2 years, I got to go throw more money at it to keep it enforced. I says, why do I want to keep throwing money at a losing battle? I'm going to just send it to a goldarn a collection agency, screw up your credit, and then for the next 7 years, it'll screw up your credit for 7 years. The next 7 years, you can look at your wife giving you the stink eye, and she's wondering why she can't have a brand new couch or a new car or a new dishwasher because you didn't want to pay this bill because it wrecked your credit. So you go right ahead. I don't care. I hope every Christmas you have is absolutely miserable. And have a good day. The next day I got the money. He realized, he's right. If I screw up his credit,
Wes, part of the CEO's grind for Wes is to wish his clients 7 years of bad luck.
I had another guy too one time.
Man, of course not. But I'll say this, right, for folks that do have this, which is not often nowadays, I think it's less and less that people negotiate human to human versus like through the computer. But when you do have it, sometimes it's worthwhile to, one, know what your paths of recourse are, right? And call the person's bluff straight up. Like, yeah, you can do this, but at the end of the day, the ultimate result will be bad for both of us, but incredibly bad for you, right? So it's like just cutting through the chase and getting to the end result, right? Seriously, you're not going to pay, so then this is what's going to happen. We're not even going to keep arguing about it. I like it.
Yeah. I had another time, I had a guy call me. His father owed me $5,000, and he said he wasn't going to pay, and he didn't pay. And then about 2 years later, his son, which is his junior, he had the same name but a junior. He said, he calls me up and says, hey, my wife and I are trying to buy a house, but because I have my father's same last name, we're having a struggling trying to get a loan because our credit is screwed up because of this debt my father owes you. I was asking, is it possible that you could call the company that's the credit company and tell them that they have the wrong guy so my wife and I can get a house? And I said, no, I can't do that.
Wow.
I said, I got you right where I want you. I want you to tell your father to pay the bill. And I want every Christmas to be absolutely miserable. And I want your wife to be looking at your father and asking him why he can't have a house. So, no, I'm not going to do that. See you later. Have a good day. And I hung up on him.
Okay, so all right. So, are you going to leave the punchline? What happens next for the next episode, or are you going to tell us?
What do you mean? What happened?
Yeah. So he hung up on the guy.
They paid the bill because they wanted to buy a house.
I love it. I love it.
But I said, I want every Christmas to be miserable, and I want your wife to be looking in your father's eyes, asking him why she can't own a home.
I know. I absolutely love it. But Wes, we're coming up on time for today's episode. I wanted to um, first of all thank the 150 plus subscribers we have so far with you know, pretty rustic work on our part. As you guys know, we are two CEOs running our businesses, me in Cleveland, in Brazil, Wesley in Wisconsin, in the greater Chicago area. And so we're doing this as a platform to stay fresh. Is a platform where we come and we talk sometimes a little bit of politics. We talk a little bit of lifestyle, right? Wes is about watches, about giving gifts and Christmas, and et cetera, et cetera. And we talk a lot about business, about decisions, how we go from Q1 to Q2 to Q3, how we balance a little bit of work life, right? Um, and we still think that this is interesting. I think we had an amazing Brazilian trip that we owe you guys. Get through that material and really highlight the amazing CEOs that we met across the way. From Elias, owner of um, Casa Paradiso in Guarujá, in the ocean front, an amazing boutique Airbnb hotel, and he's growing tremendously. Amazing cuisine. We ate like kings in there, and we need to share those videos with you guys. Um, from Bardo Edu at Na Vila Olímpia, where we ate amazing food, met wonderful people, and just Georgia Safi, right, that we met at Investidores.vc in São Paulo. And everybody in between, Heloísa in Monte Alegre do Sul, that was an incredible host at Restaurante Bambu, which was also amazing food. The chef was tremendous. So we had an amazing 2025. Wes was very clear on what his focus was. He started the year in a more or less of a jam of his own doing. No one will deny that, but in a jam nevertheless. And he had to make a decision. Do I work on what I can work for 2025, which was the foundation, the training, the education to his own people, so they are better prepared when I get out of this jam so we can focus the resources where the resources need to be. And that's what we need to do. We need to adapt, make the plan, and execute. And I think that while we started 2025 with a lot to go for the CEO's grind, we definitely thought, hey, we created different businesses. We went through, difficult times, et cetera, et cetera. Put together a podcast is going to be a walk in the park. Let me tell you, it is not. But it is fun. Every episode, I'll say 99% of the episodes we record, I gain a little bit more focus. I learn something, or I'm able to share something that Wes, all the way there in Wisconsin, might not have thought about, like a spark, a next obvious step that he can take.
Yeah,
or we take each other off the ledge when we're like being too short-sighted on who to hear, what not to hear, what to watch, what not to watch, what to allow to influence our day-to-day decision in the business or in a career that we're trying to build versus not. So that's what this environment is for. And we had amazing guests. We had Lisa Warfield. We had Andrew Rosenberg as a guest. We had Eric Cullenberg, a founder of Studio House, a hotel boutique in Brazil, as well as guests. And we have many more guests in the pipeline for 2026. So without saying much more, I just want to thank everyone, even though my camera is not working, and I'll give the word to Wes.
I want to say something. We're here for ironing, sharpening iron. Us all talking together, even people in the audience to chime in and leave a remark, and we can talk about it. And all of us are all CEOs trying to iron, sharpening iron, trying to get sharper at our craft.
That is right. So we will probably have another one this year, just to wrap up, but we'll definitely see you guys in 2026 with more segments, and we're also launching the CEO's Grind podcast Brazil with amazing folks that we met there, and they're going to be really, really, really good exchange of ideas, business, and opportunities coming in 2026. Thank you, everybody. Stay in the grind.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.